So we started letting the young chickens out to free roam like all the other chickens. And every night it's a fiasco trying to get them to go to bed. What y'all doing? You can't sleep up here. The raccoons will get you. Come on. Come on. What is it? We got a creek back. Hello friends, welcome back to Cosmopolitan Cornbread. So today is a great day to work in the garden. It's not a million degrees outside. We've had a little bit of a break from the heat because of Hurricane Beryl, and overnight we got a ton of rain. We got somewhere between, well, I would say somewhere around 5 inches of rain, which the garden will greatly appreciate. I appreciate because it gives me a break from having to do the watering, but it's also brought in a little bit of a break from the heat. As a matter of fact, earlier today I was running errands and the truck thermometer was reading 60 degrees. I haven't seen 60 degrees in midday in a really long time. So because it's not screaming hot, I felt like it's the perfect time to plant all of my baby pepper plants that I started from seed earlier this year. So I'm going to grab my little baby pepper plants and we'll get started planting. It isn't raining at the moment, but it just kind of clouded up. So hopefully I'll be able to at least get my peppers planted before it starts raining again. I don't know if it's going to rain, but I don't know. It just kind of clouded up all of a sudden. You know, when you live in the mountains, it's hard to see what's happening on the horizon because you can't see it. So I've got a whole bunch of peppers that I'm planting today. This one's a jalapeno. I've got jalapenos. I've got the Chinese 5-color, cayennes, guatemaladas, lipstick peppers. Just all sorts of peppers. And that's basically why this particular garden bed has been fairly empty since I started planting everything. I was saving the space for all my peppers. And I know it looks like I'm kind of planting them pretty close together, but it has been my experience that peppers like company. I've planted, oh gosh, 30 pepper plants in a 4 by 8 foot bed before, or no, 4 by 10 foot bed, which is actually right about what this is. I don't actually know how many pepper plants I have going in here today, but it's somewhere around that. I'll have to do a count and see. But when I've done that in the past, the peppers actually did really, really well. Now I do try to plant hot peppers by hot peppers and mild by mild, because even though they say you're not going to notice any cross-pollination the first year with those seeds, I have seen some relatively mild peppers get a little bit of bite on them. So, I mean, I'm not doing it perfectly, but I do try to at least put most of the hot peppers away from the mild peppers. So we actually saw our first hornworm out here. It wasn't in the tomatoes, it was over here on a pepper plant. I noticed the other morning that one of my pepper plants was completely stripped on one side. And I was like, ooh, I know what did it. Gotta find it. And my son looked, and sure enough, there it was. It was not quite fully grown, but big enough to do some major damage. Hi, Milk Dud. There he goes, exploring the garden. I don't think you need to get in there, mister. He's like, well, you left the gate open. If you look down here, you'll see some of my, you'll see some pine needles that are on top of the soil. They are with all of the leaves. These are, you know, just natural leaves and forest floor debris that I raked up to mulch my beds with. And I do have a couple of beds that I mulched with just straight pine needles. And I've had a lot of questions about that, and I don't remember if I answered that or not. People were concerned about the acidity of the pine needles. And the thing of it is, pine needles, if they're on top of the soil, they really don't do much as far as acidity goes. It's really only if they're down in the soil, like breaking down in the soil, which takes a really long time for pine needles. But a lot of plants, especially things like tomatoes, like acidity, like the acidity. And so I have found that that is kind of beneficial to mulch with pine needles. And I have also mulched pepper beds with pine needles, and I've never had an issue. Never had a problem whatsoever. I just got lots and lots of peppers. Alright friends, so I actually kind of stopped filming earlier so that I could get as much work done as I could while I had the time to do so. And I wanted to come back out here and just kind of share a few things with you about the garden. So in addition to planting peppers today, I did a little bit of tearing out too. So right over here, I had a row of green beans, and I was not impressed with them. They were supposed to be pole beans. They never climbed the trellis at all, and I started having problems with pests. The plants weren't producing anymore or anything like that, so I decided it was time to go ahead and pull this out. And one of the things that I did today was I fertilized with some more of the CalMag fertilizer, which is one of the fertilizers that I've been alternating with out here in the garden. And I did go ahead and fertilize this area here simply because I am going to replant this with something. I haven't decided what yet, but I am going to replant it. This bed over here is the absolute pitiful bed. The only thing that seems to be doing very good in this bed is the okra, which isn't too terribly surprising because okra actually does really well with bad soil, depleted soil. One of the things that I learned over the years of gardening is that there are certain things that do better with poorer soil. Roselle is one of them. Okra is one of them. Chamomile is one of them. So the less nutritious the soil, the better those plants actually do. So I'm kind of considering planting some more okra over here and maybe a few other things. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with that or if I'm going to do anything with that. Now these beans over here are another story. Definitely pole beans. They definitely climbed the trellis like they were supposed to. However, all of a sudden they are starting to get some major pest problems, but I've identified what it was or what it is that is on here. And as soon as I get done filming this, I'm going to come out here and treat my beans. It is bean leaf beetles, which not only do they devour your beans, you know, they lay the eggs, the larvae devour the bean plant, and then the beetles devour the bean plants. And as if that wasn't bad enough, not only is the, you know, the eating of the leaves bad, but bean leaf beetles and their larvae can also carry a bacteria that can kill the plant besides them eating it. So I'm going to come out here in just a little bit and spray this down. I'll have to look and see what I've got. I know I've got some neem oil. I may go ahead and use that. And we'll go ahead and treat this and try and get rid of those bean beetles because they are already hitting this pretty hard. So I shared earlier how I had planted this entire bed with all of those wonderful pepper plants. Now they didn't all fit in this bed, so I planted a couple peppers down here in this bed where I had some space. And I also planted a few in this bed where there were some spaces. My zucchini is doing pretty well, and I'm not going to do a full garden tour today. I will do one in sometime in the next week. Now, the other big thing that I did today is I ripped out my squash. Well, most of the squash. I do still have 2 plants that I left. They seem like they're doing okay. You know, I was having the issues with the deficiencies, so I was getting the blossom end rot and all of that. And I had gone ahead and started fertilizing really well with CalMag and things like that. And I started getting tons of squash. My Monday video was all about preserving squash because I was still getting so much of it. However, if you watch that video, you know that I mentioned that I'm probably not going to be getting much more because the squash vine borers have arrived. And if you've never dealt with squash vine borers or you're not familiar with them, they're kind of this little bug. And that bug pierces the stem or the vine of your squash plants just like a mosquito does your arm. And they inject eggs into the plants. Then those eggs hatch and then the larvae eat the plant from the inside out and just kill the plants. But one of the telltale signs that you've got a squash vine borer is not only does your plant start dying, but generally somewhere along the stem, along the vine, you're going to see some sort of damage, like a hole or some sort of structural damage to that vine. And then you'll see what looks like wet sawdust. And I'll show you a picture right here of what that looks like. And when you see that, you know you've got a squash vine borer. And I just went ahead, I pulled those plants out, put them over in a pile outside the garden area. Once they're all dried up, I'm just going to burn them along with the bean plants that I pulled out today, just because there's likely eggs and things like that that I don't want to compost them because we don't need to be creating, well, a nursery for all of the garden pests. I will say though that the one thing I didn't have to deal with this year, which I'm surprised but happily surprised by, I had 0 squash bugs. 0. Not a single one, which was pretty amazing. But these 2 plants, you know, still looked pretty healthy. That one over there that's up against like the little shade, it was greening up. It's looking good. There's still blossoms on it. This one over here, you know, all of the new growth is greener. There are some baby squash on there. And so I went ahead and I left those because at this point, those 2 plants looked okay. And it's starting to sprinkle. What are y'all still doing out here? Go to bed.
Come on, get down there. Get down there. Get down there.
Good night, babies. Y'all know how to go to bed, don't ya? Good night. We'll see y'all in the morning. What do you think you're doing? Y'all need to go to bed. Go on. Go on. Huh? That was a stick I just stepped on. Every night.
Get there.
Every night. We have never had problems like this with chickens before, ever.
Get. Go on. Go on.
Well, I take that back. We did have a couple that liked to roost in the tree earlier.
Go on.
Well, back in the winter time. But they did that for a while and then they started going into the coop again. But these ones, every night it's the entire flock we're having to get them to go to bed. Some are up here, some are up on the bank. Go on. Y'all need to go to bed.
Go to bed. Get in there. Go on, don't back. Get up in there.
Go to bed. Go on.
Go on, go on. Get in there. Get in there. Come on.
Is that all of them?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yep.
You're next. Come on.
All right, your turn, Milk Dud. Time for bed. Alright y'all, so I was working out in the garden earlier today and I ended up getting rained out, so I wasn't able to finish sharing everything that I wanted to share with all of you. So I'll just have to share it in another video, what all else has been going on in the garden. Oh, and I forgot to mention, a couple of you were wondering about this wound on my chin. That was a willow. Our granddaughter is in the phase of bear hugs with tackling, and she tried to tackle me and give me a bear hug the other day, She was laughing hysterically. Her mouth was open and she slammed into my chin with her tooth. So, hurt me, surprised her, but she was fine. My chin, not so much, but it'll be all right. And I think I hear rain again. So, time to head on in. Thanks for spending time with us here at the homestead. I'll talk to y'all next time.